Hello everyone and welcome to the 28th installment of Yid Talks. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Tonight's talk is entitled, It's All About the Pivot. That's right, like in basketball you kind of pivot, or maybe in dance class or something. Either way, life is all about the pivot. And what do I mean by that? This is what I mean about that. As my channel, as an example, I started this channel with the hopes of completing 2 Yid Talks every week, that I would be able to upload 2 new Yid Talks every single week. And I started out great for about the first 6 to 8 weeks or so. I was doing just that, and it was wonderful. But then things changed, and there came into my life a new stress, and that original goal of trying to do 2 Yid Talk uploads every single week kind of fell to the wayside. At first, I was a little hard on myself about it. I really wanted to continue that momentum because my number one goal in this channel, at least what I'm striving towards completing, was 101 recordings. Now, in order to do that, do the math, having 2 every week, it would take about 50 weeks to complete this first kind of goal of Yid Talks. And that's about a year. 50 weeks is about a year. And I figured, okay, if I can hold to 2 a week, I could get done with my original goal of 101 recordings in about a year. I realized that a year is a long time. It's going to take perseverance to get there. But I think it's manageable as long as I keep to those 2 a week. If I start doing less than that, that original goal can even get up to taking 2 years to do. And to me, I felt like that was a little bit too large of a goal to attain, to kind of keep this going, sustain Yid Talks for 2 full years, with potentially not getting such a big audience, whatever else it might be. That's why I kind of had that goal, that vision of doing 2 a week to get up to 101 recordings in about a year's time. Things changed. Thank God, it's good things. I recently was able to close on our first house. That's what my wife and I were able to do. We were able to close on our very first purchase of a house, and it's been stressful about 6 weeks of time so far, trying to get everything ready. It's a fixer-upper, and I might have mentioned that in my last talk. And it's been a stressful journey, something that we don't think either of us were really prepared to take on with the rest of our life. Already going as it is, having 2 children and both working full-time jobs, and now having this on top of it, fixing up a home, getting it ready to move into. It's a stressful thing. Now, like I mentioned, when this first occurred, I wasn't really recording Yid Talks for a little while, and it was in the back of my mind, like, here it goes, here goes the goal, it's going out the window. But then I kind of realized that there was something more important that was usurping the recording of a Yid Talk. And at that point, I became a little less hard on myself, and I recognized that life sometimes calls for a pivot. God sometimes calls for us to pivot. It's sometimes more admirable to be able to stop doing something that we had our hearts set on doing, and to kind of show ourselves that we could put something important to the side, because something more important may take its place. And I think this is an important talk because I think all too often many of us get a goal in mind, and then we're sometimes willing to sacrifice a lot of other things that may be more important things in life just to obtain that goal. I could be talking about, striving for money, a lucrative job, a special project, or a countless amount of other things that I'm sure many of us at home can think about that have either happened to us or to other people in our lives that we know. We really just have to ask ourselves, we really have to make a calculation in our minds about what's most important in life. Is obtaining the goal of 101 recordings in 1 year really the most important thing? Is that really something that's going to usurp the work that goes into building a home for my family? In the end, the answer was no. It wasn't as important as that. And therefore, this goal had to take a back seat to that. And it's hard to pivot sometimes. Sometimes it's a hard thing to do. But it's the more courageous thing to do. Because we have to ask ourselves, who are we really doing this goal for? Is it for ourselves? Is it for our family? Is it for God? Typically, the answer is usually for ourselves. And in being for ourselves, there are probably more important things to usurp that personal goal. In the end, it's all about the pivot. Life sometimes puts a pivot. Life sometimes puts the necessity for a pivot into our lives. Some may get that sign and do an appropriate pivot. Others may not. And really it all comes down to das. It all comes down to knowledge of ourselves. To really be able to answer truthfully whether it's a correct thing to do, to put one goal aside for a new goal. Put one priority on the side for a different priority. It's really a test of knowing ourselves. And I don't know what the right answer necessarily is. But if we really think about it, it tends to be easier to understand what that true answer is. It takes time. It takes an ability to think in an isolated type of way, to be able to answer this type of question, which is a very personal question. Sometimes it's not something that we can necessarily go to somebody else to answer for us. Priorities are very personal. And it is my blessing to everyone who's listening that we can all gather that strength to know ourselves more and to be able to truly understand what in life it's necessary to pivot for, and to really, God willing, get our priorities as straight as we can and be honest with ourselves. Thank you, guys. Yid Talk 28 coming at you. Or I guess it already came at you. Yid Talk 29, God willing, coming at you next time. Same channel, same time. Well, probably not the same time because these come uploaded all different times. But be there. Thank you, guys.